Hello, welcome to the CashPT Lunch Hour. I'm your host, LeBauer, and today I have a special guest. His name is Greg Schaible. He is the owner of On Track Physical Therapy and Sports Rehab Expert. And Greg specializes in treating athletic and fitness population in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And he helps teach other clinicians and strength coaches methods to confidently treat complex injuries and diagnoses in a demanding environment of, I guess, sports and physical activity where people are like hurting themselves or something.
Yeah, high activities where people are hurting themselves and want solutions fast.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Greg, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate you being here and carving some time out of your busy day. Why don't you just, I gave you a little intro, but give us a little bit of background on, where you are, who you are, what you're doing, and really it's like, why'd you get into physical therapy, and why do you have a clinic and an online education company?
Yeah, so been a PT for a little over 5 years now. I graduated from the University of Findlay in Ohio, but I grew up around the Ann Arbor, Michigan area, and always had a big time passion for sports. I grew up on a farm as a kid, but most kids who grew up on a farm are kind of interested in, tractors, riding the tractor with dad and fixing the tractor. And I remember I would play basketball in the middle of, in between hay loads coming into the barn as a kid growing up. So I just love playing sports. But as I got further and further into it, I just kept getting hurt too. And that's kind of what led me to the physical therapy. When I ended up running track in college and started finding the weight room a little bit more there too. And that's really when I felt like a lot of my injuries and issues myself have kind of got corrected as I started to build a better strength foundation. People talk about general physical preparedness and everything like that for youth athletes, but I grew up on a farm. I was building hay mounds, unloading hay. Like I was pretty strong, but it's different type of strength being farmer strong as compared to being weight room strong too. And there's different components to that. So
Farmer strong didn't keep you injury free.
Did not. There's different injuries that I had. I went to rehabilitation for them. That's where I kind of got the interest into going into PT for that, as well as when I was in college and always had trying to push the body to the limit, trying to get better myself as an athlete. So always had that strength and conditioning interest as well too. So that was just kind of the natural progression that things made for.
Right. What was the bit, would you have a major injury, ACL, anything, or was it just little things here and there? Was there some turning point type of?
Yeah. So, growing up, as a little kid, I always dealt with Hodgkin sliders and knee issues that way. So knees were always a constant one. I wouldn't say, looking back at it now, there was really no huge injury. I just had a run of ankle sprains that you could not believe. So I got to the point where it was taping my ankle before everything and just being very, very aware of where I put my ankle. And eventually broke my ankle. I had ORIF, 8 screws and a plate put into it. And that was kind of the big one my senior year, and lost out on, I only played 3 games of football that year, and got back in time for basketball season, and then eventually that track season as well too. But that was the big one. Looking back on it, it's not a huge injury compared to some other people. But at the time in your life when, you're thinking about sports scholarships and different things like that, it's a significant thing that happens.
Yeah. Do you get all your dorsiflexion back?
So it's limited, but I would say I probably was always limited back just from growing up playing basketball a lot too. Yeah. So it's not the best in the world, but it's better than what it was.
Yeah, it's a constant improvement, right?
Yeah.
Kaizen, right?
Yeah.
So you're in high school. You've broken your ankle. You've had these other knee injuries, and you go to college. And were you playing sports in college? And
yeah, so there's a long story behind that too. I got recruited to go to a Division I school to run track. I ran the 400 meters and the 200 meters. I actually was cut from that team. There was some numbers issues between all different sports, between guys, girls, and kind of keeping the numbers equal. So they had to make some cuts. So I ended up getting cut from that and transferred to a Division II school, which was the University of Finley. And it actually was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me in my life. It shows you how many much better athletes are actually out there in the first place. So it forces you to kind of work harder. But then the nice thing about track is there's a number associated with it. So like if you run a time, it doesn't matter if you're Division II, Division I, or NAIA, you can compete with anybody if you run the time. So, I ended up running fast enough times to compete with a lot of people at Division I level. I ran at, the Jesse Owen Track Classic, Penn Relays, some bigger relays, and ended up being a 5-time Division II All-American. So
awesome.
It couldn't have worked out any better. And they did PT school there too. So one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Yeah. So was this like you went to PT school, did you start that as a junior, or was it you graduated and were like, oh, what's next? PT school, and I got it.
Yeah, so Finley's a 3+3 program. So I always thought about athletic training or physical therapy, and Finley had both. So it was a big component of the transfer as well. And then I ended up deciding to go to the PT route, and that's a 3+3. So my first year in the grad program, I got my bachelor's.
Okay. And then after you graduated from PT school, what did you do? And did you know at that time that you were going to open your own business, or,
Yeah, if you would ask me when I was a student, I would have been very hesitant about that answer. I just wanted to work with athletes at that point in time. I didn't quite realize all the different system limitations, we'll call it, that were out there that would impact how you practice. And that's what started to kind of just rub me the wrong way over time. And that's what eventually kind of led to me wanting to go out on my own.
Yeah. So were you working somewhere full time for a few years? How long was it between graduation and going on your own?
Yeah, so it was kind of a gradual process. My first job, I was fired from 2 weeks out of school.
That's awesome.
You're
doing something. You're doing something right when someone tells you you're doing it wrong right away.
Yeah, and so it wasn't the fact that he told me that I was doing something wrong that kind of rubbed our relationship the wrong way. It was just the fact that so it was his way or the highway. He told me he needed a follower and not a leader in his PT clinic. It wasn't something that sat well with me.
Yeah.
So I told my parents we mutually parted ways, but I was fired.
No, I get it. But that's, like I just interviewed Kevin Schmidt yesterday. And I have like 10 of these stories where it's like immediately like, that this isn't the right fit. So that's great. But it's like when those things happen, it's like I hear there's this pattern. It's like you're doing something. You wouldn't be here talking to me if you were the right fit at that clinic.
Right.
You see that?
Yeah.
Like if you were a follower, you wouldn't be where you are today with your two businesses.
Yeah.
Unless you changed your personality or desires over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. That's awesome. So what happened next? Sorry,
yeah. So when I was in PT school, one of my summer jobs was with a clinic as a tech. So it was Gary Gray Physical Therapy. So I went back, kind of reached out to them, and ended up getting hired by them back around home. And so worked there for it was a total of 5 years, but I started my own cash practice on the side in Ann Arbor, and it was a good 40 miles away from where I was working too, just to make sure that I wasn't doing anything wrong. So I started that, I would have been 3 years out of PT school, and then I did it part-time for 2 years before I decided to go full-time into it.
Okay. Now, so was there something like, were you living in Ann Arbor and driving 45 minutes to work with Gary Gray and you were like, I need something closer, or was there something else that was like?
I was in between, so it actually kind of worked out pretty well as far as the distance go. Like it wasn't too bad to drive to Ann Arbor and do a gig. It wasn't too bad to drive to Adrian. What was bad was when you went to one and then the other. So I had short days on Tuesdays. It really wasn't a big deal. And then on the weekends, I could see people in Ann Arbor.
Yeah. Were you working full time at the other clinic, or did you
Yep, full time.
Yeah. And you were picking up your own business on the side?
Yep.
What was it that made you decide to, all right, I need to start my own business and do my own thing?
Well, part of it was, I mean, so that situation that happened early on after PT school was like, okay, I need to create a situation for myself that I'm good with. And then just as things got out, so Gary Gray actually got bought out by a bigger corporation too, and just things were just more and more. The once you start practicing in the cash pay realm too, you start wanting to be there more and more often because you just enjoy it a lot better than seeing multiple patients at once. So it's like, okay, I got to make this happen. What are the steps to make it happen? And I started this too, so we got to follow through with it.
Right. That's awesome. Was it easy to start?
So it was easy to start part-time. Like it wasn't too, I mean, it made my life a lot busier to put all that work into it. But it's a lot better than sitting at home and watching Netflix. So, I was enjoying that, but it hit a boiling point where it's kind of like, what am I going to do now? Like this is picking up. It's spending a lot of my time. Like I don't have much other free time to do whatever I want to do. And I started it. So, let's see where it goes.
Okay.
So it was picking up, but it wasn't like I was hoping there was going to be some like smooth transition. It's like, okay, you get to the point of where you're really busy, you're really rocking, and it's like a smooth transition over. Like you already had yourself financially kind of set before that transition. And
it wasn't like that, huh?
2 years to actually make the decision to go out on my own. It was just like it hit a point where I was seeing people, but it wasn't to that point where it was just like, okay, you're financially set. It's not going to be a big hit to you if you move over. And so someone said to me that you're never going to grow unless you have the capacity to grow, and that just totally made sense to me. Just because I didn't have the time to try to build other relationships. There was relationships being made, but it was at a snail pace and it was very slow, and I couldn't leverage it as well as I wanted to because I didn't have the time to do it.
Where, was that always your mindset, or was it for the first few years you're like, this is just going to grow, and then all of a sudden you kind of like something flipped and you're like, oh, I have to invest more of my time, energy, and money into this thing to get the bigger payoff?
Yeah, I would say that was kind of always my mindset originally going into it. I'm a pretty conservative. I like stability, I guess you would say. And I think most people do. And that fear of unknown is just, it's out there. It's not necessarily that I'm afraid to face it, but when you're comfortable, it's hard to leave comfort. And so that was the issue until someone, brought to my attention that, you're getting in the way of your own growth because of that. And just, at first you didn't want to necessarily believe that, but then the more you sat and thought about it, the more you're like, yeah, you're completely right.
Right. So let's see. So when how did you make that transition? Like, how did you go from comfortable full-time job, you started a side hustle type of thing. And like, how did you decide to let this comfortable, steady stream of, income, how'd you decide to let it go? Say it's time to cut the cord.
Yeah, it was literally just pick a date that you were going to tell the facility manager, and then you set that date, and then it keeps coming closer and closer, and then the day hits, and you're just like, oh, well, I told people this is what's going to happen. Now I got to do it. So I remember just sitting there typing my notes, and the facility manager walks into his office. I'm like, well, I guess now I got to do it. So walked in there and just kind of laid the bomb down then, but that's what happened.
Yeah. How long did it take you to go from part-time to full-time, or feeling like I'm not missing the comfort, the income that I just let go?
Yeah. I mean, so you could say it took 2 years, because the 2 years I was part-time. That second year I was pretty consistent as far as how many people I saw. It was growth from the first year, but it was to the point where it's like, I'm not really seeing any more growth. It's just kind of where it's at. So that's where the decision was made. And then immediately after I made the decision, within 3 months, things, I 2X what I was doing before that. And then I I think 4x what I was doing there in the next couple months too.
Yeah.
So like what that guy had said to me, you know, you didn't have the capacity to grow was 100% true there. So that just, it sat with me ever since.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So let's go backwards just a little bit. So what did you do when you got started? Like what was the most successful thing that you did when you started your business to start and get, to get things going, get patients in the door so that it was a viable side hustle and,
Yeah.
job?
I mean, I'm in a gym, so I independently contract inside of 2 gyms in Ann Arbor, and that has been the biggest thing for me. So part-time, it was just 1 gym, and I knew him kind of a little bit beforehand. We've known each other for a while, just being around the area and being in similar professions. I went to a continuing education course with him. So we kind of had the same background as, our belief systems, I guess. And so after that, he was holding just like a powerlifting meet for his members, like a membership only type thing. And I asked if I could kind of come to it just to kind of sit there for a while and ask him if he was interested in having a PT rent space in his gym. So I asked him that, and he was totally game for it. And, a big part of that was the relationship we had before that, where he already knew me, to give me the okay to do that. And then it was just a matter of, I think I bought your course right about at the same time there too, back when it first came out. And it just started offering free discovery visits to members of the gym there. And that's how I started to get recognized in the gym a little bit more too. So he was very instrumental in the referrals to me, because I was part-time and I was not able to be there very often. Like there was just a certain set of people that I would see all the time. There wasn't other members of the gym that I would see because I wasn't there during those hours.
Right.
So he was very instrumental in getting me going. And then the online presence kind of took a little bit of a growth over that year span. And some other gym members, fitness people from around the area started to kind of recognize my service and notice it was a little bit different. And I had another gym member come and ask to be just treated. And then they wondered if I could kind of do the same thing over at their gym too. And then that kind of morphed into another referral source for me there. So those were the two biggest things right there, is just getting involved with the gyms around the area.
Yeah. So basically getting your face in front of people, being personable and being there, and then offering, a free visit and maybe some talks and some other things like that really got things going for you.
Yep.
Dude, that's awesome. I think that's great. And I think that's one of the things that I see people miss, in that they want to do like the fancy stuff first, but a lot of it is just the, boots on the ground, grassroots networking, knowing people, they can get you really far. Was there anything else specific that you did that you were like, wow, that worked really well, or something that you were like, that bombed out?
I did a few health fairs early on that I really didn't know what the heck I was doing there. So it just completely bombed because I wasn't collecting emails at the time. I didn't have a follow-up system in place. It was just kind of pointless being there. It didn't lead to anything. But now I wouldn't say I'm necessarily the best at like a health fair, but at least I get people on an email list. And then the biggest impact has been discovery visit at other places, or not discovery visits, workshops at other places. That's been the most helpful. And quite honestly, currently, I need to get back to doing more of that because it was helpful for me to grow. And then I kind of got a little bit busier and didn't have as much time for it. And then I tried to work on some fancier stuff like you talked about, like the Facebook ads and things like that. Don't happen right away. And you got to spend money to do it too. So I need to go back to doing more of those so that I can leverage myself a little bit more with some of these other advertising avenues as well too.
Yeah. When you go do like a health fair or really like a talk in another gym, what's the outline of that? What are you doing? How are you collecting emails? How are you converting people into patients from those types of events? How is that so
Yeah, so some of it, my way has just been going to gyms, and that's what I'm known and pretty decent at,
Mm-hmm.
and can speak to the population well. There's been times when I went to gyms and I approached the gym member completely wrong, and just framed it wrong. I think probably because they thought maybe I was trying to steal our clients from them and bring it to the other gym that I was located at.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't really what I was trying to do at all. I was just trying to provide a service for their gym members. Yeah, so I think some of that may come to what their mindset as a gym owner is too. Like if there's a scarcity mindset, they may not be completely open to that situation. So you going in there and asking for that right off the bat may not be the best approach either.
Right.
But the ones that it did hit on, it's a matter of just figuring out what their members are struggling with. So if the gym owner tells you there's something that he sees a lot, then I just kind of talk about that topic. Or I go to one with like low back and hip pain because that's kind of a go-to area for me. And really I just try to find somebody's story inside of it. So I started off just trying to open it up to anybody who has a current problem.
Mm-hmm.
And just getting a little bit of a background similar to what you would do in a subjective. And just so you can talk to somebody personally, because that gives you a connection with them. And then a lot of times other people can find themselves in a story that is similar. And that's what starts to get the connection going. And then if you your goal is to hit with just a couple people. Mm-hmm. They come up and talk to you afterwards, and then you set up the free discovery session, which turns into a plan of care.
Wow, that's really powerful. So are you spending time, you're kind of like, you'll kind of get one person in the audience and go through some of their issues. Are you demonstrating anything, or are you just talking about it and getting other people?
So sometimes people aren't comfortable, saying their problem, especially if you're in a bigger group. Most of my places have been, maybe like 8-10 people tops that I'm talking to. So it hasn't been huge, and they're part of the gym too. So it's like they kind of already know some of the other people, so they're comfortable sharing.
Yeah.
But there has been times when nobody shared anything. So I just kind of start off with like the most common presentations that I see. And then people start chiming in a little bit more as far as, oh yeah, I deal with that. That's something that I see, or they have a question that goes on top of that. And then you start talking about, okay, well, what are you dealing with then? If you have these questions, obviously you're dealing with something. Let's dive a little bit deeper into your scenario, and see if anybody else fits into that too.
Yeah. And then how are you transitioning from that to an offer where maybe you're getting their emails or getting them signed up for a free discovery visit?
Yeah, at the point in time, like when you start going in depth with somebody, they realize you're different. So the free discovery session is a pretty easy sell once you have gotten to that point. Or like if you're in the middle of a talk, like you just say, let's talk afterwards a little bit more about this. And then you get them one-on-one and you talk to them individually, and you set up a time for that discovery visit.
Awesome. And you bring in like your computer or your phone, and you're like, just get them scheduled right then.
Yep, right on the phone. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what have you done that didn't work, or that you would say, I mean, I think you said health fairs where you weren't really prepared, but was there something that you did, you're like, I wouldn't do that again, or would do it a different way, or, is there something you did and it just wasted your time getting started?
Going to health fairs and not knowing what you're doing is a complete waste of your time. I still wouldn't say that I'm the greatest at it, but I'm willing to put the time into it now, because at least I have a follow-up system with emails in place to try to nurture somebody to eventually come in. I haven't.
Like, what were you not doing right? Like, so for example, like what didn't you do right? What did you do wrong the first couple of times?
I literally just set up a table and, said this was on-track physiotherapy. If you got a question, come talk to me. And, that was it. There was like no offer there. There was no free gift for somebody to kind of put their email information down. It was just like, try to talk to me. And there a lot of health fairs that are company sponsored, they're just kind of going through there because the company had sponsored it. So they're like, oh yeah, I'll take a break from work and go walk around and see what's out there. They're really not there to try to fix a problem that they currently have. They're just window shopping.
Right.
So having something to kind of draw them in, get them interested in what you do, make them see that you're a little bit different, and then really just get the email is a big thing so that you can put them in your nurture system. Mm-hmm. as you get to talking with someone again, I try to push the envelope a little with them and find to see if they're dealing with anything currently for a long period of time, or what their story is, if they tried something in the past that didn't work. So that way you can talk to them on a different level, but they're always not willing to share that information right off the bat either. So.
Is there anything else like you do differently now when you go do that type of thing? Is there something that you're saying a little differently, or
Yeah, so I bring some equipment with me. So some of the manual therapy stuff that I do is cupping and dry needling. So I bring that stuff with me just because it kind of provokes a conversation for a lot of people. So that's almost like a little bit of a demonstration thing there. I put like a email list. You can sign up for an email list to get free coupons, vouchers, and things like that from us. And what I've found from talking to some other people, which I haven't tried yet, but I probably will try, is this like getting like a pinwheel or something, having different like free giveaways and having them just sign up. You get the chance to spin the wheel for these free giveaways, or you could even put like a 75% discount evaluation, but really that's just a discovery visit, but now you're getting paid for it. Or you put a free low back guide that you have that you can just send to them via an email. Have these things on a pinwheel, and because people love spinning the little pinwheel, and just using that to get an email.
That's a great idea. I
haven't tried it yet, but that's something that I will do my next one.
Yeah, very cool. So with your practice, are you looking to grow it? Where do you want to take your business? Is it just you? Are you currently employing anyone else? Do you have plans?
Yeah, it's just me. That is something I've thought about a lot. I would like to have some employees at some point in time. Because having the other online business, currently I feel a little bit scattered sometimes working between the two of them. And not always having the direction. I sense it'll always be that way unless I have some employees. The first employee probably is going to be someone part-time, or a office manager to kind of help me out with some of the small things, but just to free up my time a little bit more to be more direct with things as opposed to reactive of situations that occur. Is probably the biggest thing. But yeah, I would like to have some employees to kind of free up my time to do some other things and leverage more things. But also because I came from that background of working in an environment that I didn't like, I want to try to create an environment that people like to be a part of, create that for someone else too. Because if someone was to, going back to coming right out of PT school, if someone was to hire me as a cash physical therapist working for a clinic that was already separated, and you could just be a PT, but not have to and treat the way you wanted to treat and spend time with people. I don't know if I would have ever gotten to business for myself. I did it to create that for myself. I'd like to create it for other people too. Yeah,
that's awesome. Do you have like a 5-year, 10-year plan or goal? Like, where do you want to be?
Yeah, 5 years. I would say having an office staff member, having another PT, and being much more direct as far as my time spent on the online business and time spent in the clinic treating people. I would still want. It's going to take a while for me to want to stop treating. But at some point in time, if I can create the environment that another PT loves to be a part of, then I have no problem kind of stepping back a little bit more and trying to develop their career a little bit too.
That's awesome. How long have you been a PT? When did you graduate? It
was 2013.
Okay. That's great, man. You're killing it that's what, 5 years? Yeah, 5 years. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So I've been treating patients for almost 20. So I did 10 as a massage therapist and 10 as a PT now. And it's, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, treating patients isn't feeding me my passion as much as, other things. And, but when I was 4 or 5 years out, even up into like 15 years, I was like, man, all I want to do is help patients. And it's great. I love that feeling. So, so tell me a little bit about, you've got this online business. When did you decide to get into that and start that? And how did that whole thing come about?
Yeah, so it was it's a little bit People tell you it's not always what you know, it's sometimes who you know, and that is a very true statement.
Mm-hmm.
So my last clinical rotation that I did an internship with a guy by the name of Joe Heiler, who's a PT in Traverse City.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome PT, learned a ton from him. Big part of the reason where I'm at today is because of him. At the time, he was opening up his own clinic. He was open for a while, but it wasn't overly busy at the time because it was fairly new still. He also had this online business called Sports Rehab Expert, and that's what I am the owner of now. So after after my 10 weeks with them, that's when I went to that's when I got fired from my job when I started another place. I reached out to him. He kind of helped me out with the process. We kept in touch ever since. We went to continuing education courses together, and we just kind of kept a nice relationship going. His clinic got a lot busier.
Mm-hmm.
Started employing a lot more PTs, PTAs, athletic trainers, and he has a number of kids who are into high school or graduating high school. So he just didn't have the time to put it into the website that he had to in the past. And it was kind of dying down for him a little bit. So I was kind of guest posting and writing articles for him just on an occasional basis that way. And he approached me. He's like, this is my scenario that I'm at right now. Do you want to take it over? Because I don't have the time for it anymore. And it's not what it used to be for me. So it's not really worth my time at this point. So I said, heck yeah, I'm in. That's awesome. It was something that I always had thought about wanting to do in the future, and made the decision happen a lot sooner, quicker, and a little bit easier too. But I had to learn a whole new skill very quickly too, with that as well. So that's how the transition happened. So now I'm the owner of that website, Sports Rehab Expert. I pay him a monthly royalty for it, and that's pretty much where it is right now. And I'm trying to grow it where it's a membership site, so it's a community of people who are all together looking to kind of combine the strength and conditioning aspect with rehabilitation. So for your orthopedic and sports rehab clients, and there's articles posted each week, new information on different topics, assessments, exercises, presentations that you'll find. And there's a huge database of over 500 interviews, some webinars, and thousands of articles too, where it's like an encyclopedia or a library where you just type something in now and you can find something on a situation.
Right. So
that's kind of the basis of the website, is the membership through that for clinicians and strength coaches. People from all over the world, strength coaches, massage therapists, PTs, athletic trainers, chiros, and just trying to use the email list that he had already kind of started with, and just trying to get a relationship with them and show them the new things that we're trying to bring to the website, trying to grow the membership back that way. And working on starting to develop some online courses and eventually some physical in-person courses over time too, as well.
That's amazing. That's cool. I still have and occasionally use one of Joe's overhead squat progression handouts that I got from his website I don't know, 10 years ago, 8 years ago. That's cool. So you were guest posting and he said, okay, I'm ready to hand this off. Was that a process that took, once he offered it to you, was that a process that took a while, or did it happen overnight? And
it kind of happened overnight because I was all on board with it right away.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much, what's the terms? And the legal process of it took a little bit. The transitioning everything over into my name, that all took some time. But other than that, it was kind of like an immediate thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Is he involved in it at all, or is he's just kind of more getting paid the royalty? And
he's getting paid the royalty. He is a member of the Facebook group. He occasionally kind of come on the site, say some things. I'd love to have him on the site more, but I'm not going to bug him because I know he's busy. He's still there. And I could ask him to do something.
Was that tough? For anyone who's buying a business, and you're buying something already established, and it's like transitioning from him to you, and who's the face
Yeah,
of the business.
I think, I mean, he wanted some of his time back, and it just, he didn't, my point of my life being a single dude and you know, have time, I can work on some of those things.
Yeah.
Him having kids, family, another business that's growing and doing really well. He wanted some more time back, I think was the biggest thing. And it wasn't doing, the site wasn't doing, it was going progressively down.
Mm-hmm.
So he just didn't want to see it die out was the biggest thing. It's kind of like, you know, you got your baby, you don't want to see it go. He was okay because he trusted me, the biggest thing. And then I know he was happy with having some of his time back.
That's great. So what did you do what'd you do to like get people warmed up to you? Because your name starts with a different letter, the alphabet, you know, like, and then how'd you kind of turn things around and get things moving back in the other direction? Like, what were those big strategies that you used to do that?
Yeah. So the first thing was just start posting content and having my name there and my name on the email. So people started just recognizing it. And people would just kind of start asking questions because it is a new name. They start seeing a new name and it's odd to them. So just fielding those questions and starting to talk about it a little bit more to the members of the site, and just getting them more familiar with me, comfortable with my knowledge and the value that I can give to them and the information that I can give to them. And then after that was established and they had some recognition there, it was kind of a makeover time for the site. So pretty old looking to begin with. So that needed to be done anyways. But then it just kind of, that started to put a face to me, having my face on the website as opposed to his, even though it was just, it was time for a site makeover anyways, but now it's time to just go full bore into, okay, this is where I'm going to take it.
Right. So you've got a membership, you're working on courses, and then, so is there like I was taking a peek at it again recently, and I was like, okay, so I see there's like these courses like on ankle rehab or ankle sprains, and are you selling like little mini courses? Are you working on like a big kind of course or certification, or is there person kind of courses that you're heading people towards?
One thing that I would like to take the site towards is helping the general population too. So that's some of the mini courses that you see. Like right now, there's just one on Achilles and ankle sprains, but that will be for every area. But that's geared towards athletes, and this is kind of the general system that I've found. Like if we were to pick a algorithm of exercises to choose for that injury, this is what I would choose. This is how I progress you through it. So that's kind of a take-home course for the athlete, but it's also very valuable for the clinician too, just to see exactly kind of how you lay that out. Realizing it's a general approach. There's not very specific things because different presentations will lead you to choose different treatments, exercises, and interventions. But it gives you a general sense of how I work things. So it's very valuable to the clinician in that aspect. But also my bigger plan for it is to try to get it out to athletes as well too. Coming from the background of an athlete himself who just couldn't stay on the field, like I want to have a resource for athletes that they can go to, get help, and then if they need more help than that product, they can reach out to me with some type of like telehealth type of scenario there.
Yeah. Cool. So I was going to ask, like, how are your two businesses feeding each other? How do they interact?
Yeah, so that aspect is a very, very longer term looking. I'm kind of gradually building that out. It's nothing that's immediate. The immediate is the courses that you see for clinicians, and it's a big 10-week course that I have. There's going to be a launch for it actually this next coming month, October. Okay. And it's a 10-week course where it pretty much goes into everything head to toe that I treat and how I treat it from a system standpoint, as far as how I'm looking at it, what are my pillars, beliefs, and overriding arching factors, and how I make decisions for complex cases, even when you may not necessarily always know the direction or have a specific. Because when you treat athletes and when you treat people who are working in high intensity environments, inevitably there's the unknown. Right. It's how do you deal with the unknown confidently so that you can stare the athlete back in the face and tell them this is what we need to do. We need to do this over the X number of weeks, and you're going to see progress. Even though they may come to you with a bunch of different injuries, a bunch of different problems, a bunch of long list of injuries in the past where it's not a very simple cut and dry total knee replacement that walks through your door. Like, there's a lot of different factors that kind of come in. So how do you deal with that complex environment? What are your overarching beliefs? What are your go-tos? And how do you look at all those different body parts and areas and turn it into a systematic approach to treatment?
Mm-hmm. Wow. That sounds great, man.
Yeah.
Well, definitely, like, let me know when that's ready, or get me a link for that, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate
that. So I want to ask you the same questions like online, because there are a lot of people who are adding online businesses, at the same time they have a clinic. What's the one thing that you've found has worked best for you online that isn't maybe necessarily true in your clinic?
Getting leads for a in-person clinic is very different than getting leads for an online business. Reason being is you're trying to get someone to walk through your doors with a person clinic, whereas you're just trying to collect emails for the online business. So the Facebook ads are a little bit different. Your metrics that you're tracking are a little bit different there. Your expectations are somewhat different. How you talk to them is different.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of differences. It's not always, you hear about people kind of building that the importance of that follow-up system is very important. For your online business, it's a little bit more of a value tree than the value tree of the in-person clinic, because you ultimately need to get that person through the door with the in-person clinic, which is a very different conversation than just having someone sign up for a free report or take a $1 trial or something like that.
Right on. Are you, is there something that you tried online that you thought was going to work and didn't?
A lot of things. Oh, golly. Put together some mini courses and things like that didn't necessarily take off. A lot of it is the messaging and getting people to know and be confident in what you're selling them. And if you don't have a process leading up to that, and you just kind of put it out to the email list once and say, hey, this is what I got for you, it doesn't work. You got to have a sales sequence. You got to show value before they purchase. You got to show them what you're going to be doing, what they're going to be getting from your product, and then ultimately that leads to more success with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that email is great, and I agree with you. There's two different conversations, and there are days when I look at it and go, I sent an email out to 4,000 people and no one opened it. Or there are other days it's like, man, half the people opened it and no one clicked on my link, and I'm just, it's baffling. It's
crazy sometimes what people actually respond to too. Like, it's something that you just think wouldn't be that attractive. It just all of a sudden hits, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. What advice would you give someone who wants to get started in give me one, like, what advice for a cash practice and what advice for an online business, and if they're any different?
Yeah, one of the biggest advices is learn from someone who's already done it, and have a coach. I turn everything back to a sporting scenario. You always have a coach as an athlete, but for whatever reason, when you start in business yourself, you don't think you need a coach. It's just silly.
Yeah.
You need someone who's been there giving you advice, and helping you progress, because it's going to shorten the time frame up completely, and it's going to focus what you need to work on. So, I mean, that goes with anything. It goes from developing your skills as a clinician to developing your skills as a business owner. Like, you need to have a coach, or at least some type of relationship with someone who's going to help you out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% agree. what do you think about, what do you think about like when is someone ready to start their own business? Because I know you've done it like a slightly different trajectory than I did and then other people. And what do you think? I mean, do you think someone is ready to graduate, start their own business? Do you think they need some time? Do they
Yeah.
need to be a sports rehab expert before they start a PT clinic?
So the one thing that's nice about sports rehab expert is I can say I'm kind of a product of the product because I went to Joe. He was running the website at the time. I learned everything under the sun from him, but then also had his website to kind of be my coach. Those two things were my coach. It expedited my career much quicker than I could have ever imagined. But you still need, at some point in time, you still need reps. And that's what I fear some people who get into it right away is the first 2 years, theoretically, you think you got everything, but until you start seeing the presentations, seeing it in a bunch of different fashions, that's very different. And you getting those reps helps you out, helps your confidence out a ton. Because if you don't have your confidence, you can't. It's a lot harder to sell a package. So a very good clinician can hide some bad business skills, I feel like, but a bad clinician cannot hide any bad business skills. So I would say like 2-3 years, unless you're with someone unless you have a coach or something who's going to be teaching you, you need that time frame to experiencing it yourself, and it's going to help you out clinically so much more, so you can spend more time focusing on the business aspect of it too, because that adds another component of your time. As you're focused all on the business, you're never going to progress yourself as a clinician.
Right.
And you got to be a good clinician too and you got to get outcomes.
Yeah, but would you agree that learning more about being a clinician doesn't necessarily make you a better business? Like taking more and more courses about, treating vaccine isn't going to make me a better in my business.
I agree. So I do things to help me out as a clinician. I do things that help me out as a business, but they're separate. They never mix.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the overarching theme can be similar, but it's two different worlds.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great point. And is there anything else you want to add, like that I haven't asked about, or you want to share? You think is important for people to learn about?
Yeah, no, I mean that would be the biggest thing is you don't have if you don't have the capacity to grow, you won't grow. If you don't have someone who is going to help you out, it's not always what you know, it's sometimes who you know, because if you know people who are going to help you out as a clinician, you can get better as a clinician a lot faster. If you know people who are going to help you out as a business owner, you're going to get there a lot faster. And so that's what's going to expedite your process. And if you know someone who is just going to help you out as a good relationship to help you out with referrals, like that's huge too. So it's who you know, and you got to start interacting with some people, getting noticed some people that you know, like, and trust, and feel like they can help you out with where you're trying to go.
Thank you for that. That's great, man. So Greg, thanks so much. Appreciate your thoughts and your time. Just tell us, where can we find you online? Are you on Instagram, Facebook, any of these other places, website?
Yep. So Instagram is Sports Rehab Expert. My two websites, sportsrehabexpert.com, and the clinic is annarbor.physio. The name of the business is On Track Physiotherapy, but the website URL is annarbor.physio and sportsrehabexpert.com.
Awesome. And I'll put all those links in the show notes. And for everyone listening, this is Aaron LeBauer and Greg Schaible, and this is the CashPT Lunch Hour. Thanks for listening. Go dominate your path and take some action. Have a great day.
Awesome.